6 in the evening. First order of business is the minutes of August 14th and of August 22nd, 2023. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of August 14th, 2023? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of August 14th, 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. I hear a second, please.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
And I have to abstain because I wasn't here.
Oh.
Right, Mike?
Well, we've got a new rule.
Okay.
Our city clerk said that you don't have to be here to be able to vote on the minutes. So
Okay,
you
then I
can
will,
vote.
okay, thank you.
And I'm going to ask that question after we get through this. Okay, so motion carried. August 2014 minutes that were approved. We now have the August 22nd special meeting 2023. Are there any additional corrections? There's one. John Oakes was not present, so that should be, the John Oakes should move down into the absence sign.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Is there any other corrections? I did not see any. I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of August 22nd, 2023 as corrected.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion second. Devlin second.
Thank you.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. To follow up on that statement, I've always been waiting till I had a quorum of the previous meetings before we took up the minutes. Tim said that the city clerk said that we did not have to do that on the minutes. That's up to you all if you want to leave it that way. I mean, that's what she says. It's legal to do that. So
At least it helps us get past and
So we'll just leave it at that.
Leave it at
Yeah.
the way you guys always been doing it?
No.
I'll just
I
leave
think
it.
she said we
Okay,
could.
okay.
That way we get them cleaned up every week or every meeting. So
Okay.
I always thought that the ones that was here actually knew what was talked about. So
I mean, I read them obviously, but
sure. Okay. We'll move into old business. Before I get there, Tim was off last week for a family issue, and so he did not have time to finish up on zoning packet. So on these public hearings and things, he was liking for us just to continue them to our next meeting, and Tim and I will get together and all the notes that was taken from our previous meeting, we'll put those together into a logical order and bring them back to the board. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
So in order to do that, we have a public hearing continuance of the RV parks and also the downtown zoning update, item A and B of old business. I just entertain a motion to the board to continue public hearing for item A and B under old business.
I will make that motion.
I will second it.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. We'll move those and continue those public hearings to our next regular meeting. Under new business, we have a bed and breakfast, conditional use permit. Here again, we don't have any of that information in front of us tonight, correct?
Correct.
And Tim had asked if we could continue that to our next meeting. Is what I would like to do, being this conditional use permit has not been opened up. It has been advertised. I'd like to go ahead and open that conditional use permit as a public hearing and turn around and close it so we keep it on the the books.
I'll make a motion, we open public hearing on the conditional use permit consideration.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second. Okay, like I said, we're, okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. We're now in the public hearing. I'd like to, Chairman, I'd like to continue this public hearing to our next regular planning and zoning meeting. Entertain a motion to continue public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion is second to continue the public hearing on the bed and breakfast at 104 East Prospect to our next regular P and Z meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Item B is mobile home park. Tim, do you want to take time to discuss that?
Yeah.
Okay.
The reason why I put this on here for discussion, I think several meetings back, I had informed the board that there were some issues with travel trailers being parked in mobile home parks as a permanent residency. We currently have 3 mobile home parks here in Cameron, and the staff has noticed that each park has had either one or several travel trailers within the park using as a permanent residence, and those are not built or designed, nor is the zone district you can do that as a permitted use in a M4 or mobile home. So I wanted to, I sent letters out to all the property owners, made contact with 2 of the 3. I believe still waiting on contact from the 3rd property owner. One of the property owners was supposed to be here tonight. He asked that I informed him that I was going to put this on the agenda for discussion. But, you know, I told him that we would do everything in our power to try to work with them. Maybe look at possibly rezoning or a mixed use type to where you can, you know, have that type of structure within a mobile home park, maybe on a temporary basis. So I just wanted to see what you guys' thoughts were regarding that.
Does anybody have any thoughts?
So let me have you just restate that again, kind of what your intent, the consideration you want us to have, or what you want us to discuss is the potential of having an RV type vehicle in a regular mobile home park be there for an extended.
No, for like maybe a temporary usage. I think some of the people that are currently staying in a travel trailer, they're using that as if it was a permanent residency, like a mobile home structure that's there 365 days a year.
Right.
And, you know, we don't have a RV, an RV zoning district. So, and I know that people travel. We're currently working on a RV language right now for potential development. But with the current mobile home parks in place, maybe we can look at creating or some type of zoning ordinance or revising the zoning ordinance for mixed use type. So.
Well, I'm not really one for pulling travel trailers and just parking them as permanent residents. I just don't think that is in the best interest of our town as a whole.
Yeah.
What does Wallace State Park allow? What does the state allow for the number of days?
I'm not sure, but in Wallace State Park is the type of setting that you would see a travel trailer
Right.
being set up.
But they cannot stay permanent.
No.
And they are limited on their days. I know
Yeah.
that. My brother travels with, does that.
Mm-hmm.
And every place he goes all over Florida and every place, and there's a limit
Yeah.
to how many days he's allowed to stay in one spot.
Yes. You know, like a mobile home structure, you know, it has to be anchored down.
Right.
With, you know, like hurricane straps, the wheels have to be taken off, with skirting on. You know, it's, you know, with a travel trailer, you know, in the case of emergency, you need to be able to hook up to it to get out of there as quickly as possible.
Right.
So, I mean, it's two
I mean,
different.
I'm all for travel trailers,
Mm-hmm.
but I think they need to be in the RV style park. You know, and I'm just using Walnut State Park as an example, if we had a RV style park, you know what I'm saying? If they, I don't,
I think maybe what's kind of churned this up a little bit is the idea of potentially having, like we had, RVs here for when the pipeline crews were here doing construction, and they were staying for real extended lengths of time. And I think we wanted to consider whether we wanted that to continue to be a possibility, and if so, then something was gonna have to be written into either the simple RV or to create something that would be a mixed use. And I don't wanna totally discourage that, but by the same token, I don't wanna see, I don't think it would be good for the community, what you're saying, that people
Right.
bring in.
Yeah. One of the property owners had asked me to, because she had mentioned what you had just stated about the pipeline. I think Mike mentioned it to me as well. She had asked me to check the records to see if they were indeed allowed to do that. And I went back in the vault, and the property that I looked at, there was nothing in writing that said, hey, you can do that. It went from C2 to M4, from general commercial to mobile home park district. So,
you say it went, you mean.
the zoning changed, the
The
zoning.
zoning actually changed.
Yes, I think back in 1960 something, is when it changed.
With the pipeline, there was never a zoning change.
No.
That was just a, I guess you could kind of say a little formal agreement between the city of Cameron and the park operators to allow those individuals to park their trailers there to live in while the pipeline was being built.
So we had originally talked about a number of days limitation, like you mentioned, and state parks do have one. I was just looking here to see if it was easy to find. But a number of days limitation, but then what if you have another one of those situations where you have a new CNH construction type project and they're bringing crews from outside?
And I believe that there should be
Yeah.
there are a few rules that are written in solid concrete.
Right.
But I don't think it's a habit on an everyday basis
No.
when there's no pipeline or, significant, if we had, for example, tornado come through, just really
Yep.
cause
You gotta
devastation
Yeah.
to our town.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah.
So what you're referring to is like not a quick, but a temporary living
Right.
condition, not a
Right. I
permanent.
don't think it should be something that is, beautification matters, and I'm not trying to be mean, beautification matters. When I was a kid, I remember used to say, well, if you don't like the way I look, you don't gotta look at me, that's not the way life really is. You get to be an adult, you kind of understand that. So, I do think it matters, that we keep our town clean and nice, and we follow.
That goes both ways, because there were RVs up there that were pretty nice, and there were permanent structures that absolutely looked horrible, and
Yes, I would
just were
agree
off.
with that, yes.
So I think that's what spurred the conversation about this. So it is something we need to consider and discuss, I think. I don't think we came up with a real solid consensus last time as to what the 30 days or no limits at all or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's gotta be limits.
I can check on the limitation. I think.
And that's why your state has limits. That's why your state park also has
Yeah,
limits.
I think it goes back to our last planning and zoning meeting. What Patrick said, 30, you can't stay there no longer than 31 days because no longer than 30 days because on the 31st day you can claim residency.
So I did some checking on that too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice to think that, but you can establish residency a lot quicker than 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
The time is not what establishes it. It can, but it's not the only thing that establishes residency. We deal with it down there a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think from on Patrick's deal, because they're under a CID, they're applying for a CID for that district. And under the CID, and it comes the same as the motels, and who's working on the intersection CID. If the motel was gonna be in the CID, then you couldn't, there's something about you cannot be a resident and live in the motel and still be in the CID. There's a limitation on days. So I think more so that's where Patrick was going from, because if you go over that 30 days, then you're considered to be a resident. And yeah, so it's taken up residency, whereas, yeah.
That's different than what I'm
with,
thinking of.
It had to do with the CID part of it on that, because it would actually, could actually kick them out of the CID district. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that was the reason behind that one.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
At Wallace State Park, camping is limited to any 15 days within a 30 consecutive day period at any one park or historic site. And that's directly from the website.
So 15 days.
15 days in any 30-day period. So they stay 15 days, in August, they can't come back until the middle of September.
Right.
They
Okay.
have to be gone a month.
All right.
Is that how you kind of read it?
Well, or,
15 days within a 30 consecutive day period.
so the 15 days could be in between, with an 8 and a 7. But in any case,
Right.
the intent of the rule is to not have people building residency.
Right. A prime example would be
I think that,
Federal Lakes, Lake Arrowhead.
Oh, yeah, or remember there was the old Dean Shady Lake.
Yeah, we-
That turned into, there was a lot of people just lived down there.
yeah.
But
I
But in
think-
those days, when those were built, there was no zoning.
And I think that's kind of what we're running into with this, with the 3 parks, because of the 3, I know of one, I don't know of the other 2, but they have actually had camper trailers parked in there for full residency, 365 days out of the year for several years.
Yes.
So that's where it becomes, do you actually go in and kick those people out, basically is what you would be doing. Okay, so you look at that, do you actually kick those individuals out? And then the second phase of that is, do you basically take away the income of the park owner for not having a spot, okay, rented, okay? So that's 2 considerations. There probably is more that I can think of, but, so do you literally go in and kick them out and go back to the original rule, or do you try to do something to accommodate who's there now, as like grandfathered, for example, and then as they move out, then it goes back to its original status?
Well, one of the conversations I had with the property owner, they said they brought out grandfathered in. They said you can't be grandfathered in for something that you violated.
Yeah.
And I also explained to them that the 2 that I talked to, you can't bring any more travel trailers in right now, but the ones that's in there, just hold off until we discuss it to the board and come up with a solution.
And I say grandfathered in because they've been in there for so many years and nothing's been done.
Right.
That's why I say that.
Right.
So it probably becomes, in a sense, of the legalities of things, if it hadn't been pursued 6-7 years ago on that particular resident, it's going to be pretty hard to do anything about it now. So instead of creating, my point is, instead of creating a big ruckus over it, try to fix it, try to make it so, I'm just going to say, whether you do this or not, but just say those individuals stay there till they actually move. Then once they move, then you can't re-rent it for the same thing. Super okay. headed
Like
there.
maybe a conditional use permit type deal.
I thought about that, yeah.
But what you said is, it's hard for us to approve something that on its face is not legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the conditional use permit would actually,
And I have a feeling that I know which
put some
one you're
conditions,
talking
those
about.
conditions would be put in
I
there
think
on it.
She might, it's she inherited that, and I think all of that was maybe happening, you know, if it's who I'm thinking it is, they're not even from here.
Right, there, and that was real easy for that to occur because there
Yes.
wasn't anybody here pressing the issue either.
Right, and
You know,
the
as far as-
owner is from out of state,
Yeah.
there's a death in the family during the whole transition. And they're probably just didn't even really realize what was going on,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
And there was no real objection to it because it seemed like it was
Yeah,
reasonable to do at the time. So enforcement, I mean, there was an enforcement issue, there was a not real clarity in the ordinance, and so.
and you know, you might fix it to where maybe there's like, I'm just throwing out an example, like maybe there's 2 spots. And, you know, they can rotate those 2 spots if somebody's coming through that, I don't know, I'm just. For permanent residents.
Well, the other travel trailer language that we're working on, it's basically for conditional use. So, I mean, if you guys want to do a conditional use permit where you only can allow 2 or 1, and you know, with them put the restrictions on them, like the how many days you can stay. I mean, it's up to you guys. I'll do whatever you want me to do.
When we moved here in 1970, at Barry's Trailer Court, we sold our house in Omaha, and we could not move into the new house for another 3 weeks. So we spent 3 weeks living in a 19-foot pull trailer in a slot at Barry's Trailer Court. But it was not an RV place. You know, it wasn't an RV place, but nobody had any objection to us being there. And Dad, you know, traveled a lot. And he always had one of those books that told you where every
Yes.
campground was and what they were rendering, and Barry's wasn't in there, but they had a slot for us, so that's where we ended up, and it was, didn't seem out of place to anybody back then.
And back then, the mobile home park was full.
Yeah,
Being lots.
and there was no, you know, there would have been, Wallace would have been, and then there wouldn't have been a Pony Express RV park, wasn't there. The night before we moved over here, the only RV park, you know the little Conoco station just east of St. Joe down there in the bottoms?
Yes.
There was a little a 6-slot RV park up behind it, and we had to stay there, and it was so rainy and muddy that we had to park down next to the gas station. We stayed
The flood zone.
in the flood zone, yeah, because, you know, there just was no accommodation.
You're telling your age.
Wow.
So the conditional use permit would go with the owner of today, and once that owner left, then the conditional use permit would be void, so it'd go back to the original status of
And it's
the
really
area.
a tenant, I mean, that they might own the RV, but they don't own the lot it's sitting on. Because in that instance, Barry's owns the lot, Happy owns the,
Yeah, but that's who would have to apply for the conditional use.
yeah.
Who, Barry's, or, I mean, it wouldn't be the tenant.
No, it'd be the owner of the property.
Yeah.
It'd be the property.
So what you're saying, I want to make sure I'm hearing this right, conditional use permit for the current travel trailers in the park, once they go away, no more.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, I totally do. You don't have to explain any of that, but I have a real problem with going out there as somebody that has been allowed to live there for 4 or 5 years, and there's been some that are, that's living in a camper trailer for 4 or 5 years and go out and tell them they have to leave. I have a real problem with
I
that.
do too. It's not their fault they were allowed to do it.
Correct.
Yeah, and you know, like I explained to them that we'll work with them, you know, say give them a time frame if you need 6 months or a year to do it. You know,
But some of, and I understand that part too, but some of those, that's actually their home.
yeah.
It's just like
They
a
get mail
stick-built
there.
home.
Really?
It
All
is.
of them. probably every single person doing that out there, is their home.
One of the property owners had explained to me that they do short-term lease. So if they're doing short-term leases, then that tells me that they can pick up and move once that lease is up.
You know, well, any of those like that could do that.
Yeah.
I mean, they could pick up and move tomorrow. If they lived there 6 years, they could pick up and move tomorrow.
But that's
That's
no different if you had a big one,
Yeah.
you know, a big 70-footer sitting there.
No, but it's a
Same thing,
big difference if
short-
you had a double wide mobile home. You're not gonna.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And that's what those, well, back in when I was a kid, I used to play with all the time, my friends, they were single wides.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's what that's really meant for.
Mhm.
It's more single wides than it is pull-type RV trailers. I'm with Mike, I would have a problem with somebody setting up a shop and not knowing, you know what I mean, they were allowed to do it. And I don't think that the next person after them should be allowed to do it, but I probably also don't have a problem saying, well, you got a year to figure this out, you know? I don't wanna ever tell somebody you got 3 months, you know?
Especially when
This
it's
is-
close to winter.
Maybe I'm mistaken here. This is not an issue that's causing the city a lot of problems right now.
Other than it's violating the zoning ordinance.
Right.
I mean,
This
And
isn't
here's the
something,
deal, I mean, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I mean, you're either, if you violate the zoning ordinance, I don't care who you are or what it is, the issue needs to be addressed, one way or the other.
it does, but we don't have to be, it's not like somebody was wanting to build a lead acid car battery recycling plant next to the school where
No, but
everybody
it would
would,
be no different than somebody wanting to build anything.
yeah.
Whether it be a duplex or somebody not mowing their lawn that should be mowing their lawn. I mean,
I just don't,
I'm a very transparent, even keel person. What's good for one person is good for every single one of us in this town. And I think it does need to be addressed one way or the other, or a mixture of both, whatever that is. But I don't think it's something that we just pass off because it's not a big issue with the city. I think
no, that's what I
it's,
say, we don't have to go out there and start stomping these people to get
Right.
moved because they've been there. This is not a crisis that we're
Right.
having. We just have to come up with
Solution.
something that's solid for the city and in the best interest of the community. And boy, it would be easy to come up with some hard, fast rule that could make a lot of people angry. Even if they weren't involved, they would just see it that way. So I think we're taking the right road and trying to find some way to have common ground, but yet come up with something that over the long term kind of gives us some guidance on what should or shouldn't be.
And mobile home parks are so common. They're so common that we shouldn't have to recreate the wheel. We should be able to gather this information and find out what other communities are doing and let's see if we like it. I mean, they're all over the place.
Are you saying mobile home or RV park?
Well, that's a mobile home park.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mobile home parks.
That is not an RV park.
Okay.
The
So-
thing is, the new code addresses, this is too, but the new code, these mobile home parks that's here today fall under basically the old code.
Yeah.
There's a new one out there that was developed back several years ago that's a whole lot more restrictive than what they have, what you're seeing with basically the 3 that we have. So it pretty much eliminates all this. However, this one, the one mainly, for the lack of being able to fill those positions out there with permanent structures of trailer homes or double wides, they've just filled those holes with travel trailers to, you know, make a few dollars and accommodate a few people, is what it's done. And I keep going, is what like I said, I don't feel like going out there and just throwing those people out that's there in their mobile home or their trailer homes, mobile homes,
RVs.
RVs, because they're not, the ones living in them and owning them are not the ones at fault. It's the ones that allow them, it's the owner that allowed it to be there. And so having said that, it kind of has it kind of falls back into the city in enforcement over the years because they never enforced it to them. So we have to, I think we have to tread lightly on how we do it. Because there's no sense in like Stan said, it may not even be somebody that lives there that gets irate about it. It could be whoever, XYZ, just in the public that could do that. And we don't need that type of publicity.
We don't, but I won't make my decisions based on that.
So we just need to, I think we need to travel a little lightly, but take care of the issue. And I think we can do that.
I agree.
I would agree.
And we need to make sure that those owners realize that while we're working on this, they need to follow the rules on the lots that are vacant. Would you agree with that? If they're not, lots
Yeah,
that
from
are
now
currently
on,
vacant,
for
yeah.
sure now they should,
Right.
and hopefully they are.
But they wouldn't if they don't know, because, I know you're talking about, she's ex owner and she might not really know. Not that that's an excuse, but she might need to understand.
Yes. So I just want to make sure we're going to do a conditional use permit for the current ones that's there. And once those existing travel trailers are gone, no more. Okay, I just want to make sure. And, as far as, well, that's.
Have you ever problem, is there any legalities that we're not following by doing that?
No, I would talk to Patrick and see what he get his opinion.
Because I think we need to know that, Mike, don't you?
Yeah, well, I want to know, he always looks over our stuff,
Yeah.
so he
Yeah.
didn't know that. But that gives the ones that's living there a place to stay, okay, because they know no fault.
Okay.
And that also gives the owner of the property, I guess you could say the warning that you can't do it anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no time limit as far as the current ones that are there, just until when they leave, it's over.
But no more new ones.
Okay. And that's what I explained to them. No more.
Yeah, no more new ones.
And you have
no
explained
time
it in writing.
limits.
In writing. So,
That seems reasonable.
I think that's,
And that's what we should be, is reasonable and fair.
yeah.
I'll talk to Patrick in between time and then have an update for you guys at our next meeting.
And then
Okay.
kind of fix your problem and it'll get that, it'll get, means you're having, basically, they're just, the whole thing is they just aren't following the code,
Yes.
okay? So it doesn't, it kind of takes care of 50% of that because they aren't gonna do it anymore. But it also allows, at some point in time, it'll take care of itself 100% and put it all back online.
Yeah, and I would say on the conditional use permit, they should provide who the tenant is, type of travel trailer, license plate. That way, we got record who's coming and going.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
And then you can also check, they're still pulling utilities.
yes,
Right,
yep,
so
Yeah.
you'll have that information to match.
yep.
And so that would not only affect one, but it affect all three,
Mhm.
because there are only three, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and I don't know whether any of the others have it in there or not, I have no clue, but that one I just know does,
Well, you're going, that one you can see, because it's
Yeah.
on the main
but,
drag.
yeah, very visible,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, does that work for you too?
Yep.
Okay.
Actually got a meeting with one of the owners tomorrow, so this will be hopefully good information for him.
Okay, so moving on down to other matters. Anything to-
The lady that was here earlier, Lizzie Bailey, she submitted a application for another bed and breakfast, so I'm gonna have that on the next agenda as well. So you're starting to see more and more bed and breakfast type businesses, so just FYI.
Is that what we really call, is that the same as Airbnb?
Airbnb bed,
Yeah.
on our term, it's bed and breakfast, it's the same thing, Airbnb, bed, don't know what the other
See, to
term.
me, whenever I've stayed in a bed and breakfast, but you know, they provide breakfast. But typically, an Airbnb and a VRBO does not, so
Yeah.
There is
What's
a
the other?
considerable difference between them, but
there definitely is.
What was the last term you used? You said BRV?
VRBO, Vacation
VRBO.
Rental by Owner, that was first before Airbnb.
Okay.
But, you know, a bed and breakfast are typically old stately homes and, you know, they come with meals.
the people would entertain the
Yeah.
people, I mean,
You eat together,
Mhm.
even the people you don't know, a lot of times at the same tables, and they serve food. The owner of the home is on site.
it's just not a residential motel room,
Right,
you know, where verbal or Airbnb can be.
is right. VRBO and Airbnb is nothing more than just renting your house out short term, that's all that is.
Mhm.
They take over your home.
And a bed and breakfast is pretty good food sometimes.
Yes, typically it's all homemade.
Well, there's, you know, back in those days, there was a lot of competition between them, you know, so they would be competitive on
Yeah,
cuisine and
some of them are pretty fancy.
entertainment and locations.
Anything else, Tim?
Did you, you said you wanted to talk about appointing a co-chair and then,
Yes. Since Mark is no longer with us, Mark was our co-chairman. So we need to appoint or dictate or somebody to be co-chair.
I would nominate Stan.
No.
He's actually our secretary.
Yeah. Or George would be good.
He would be good,
George
and he's
is-
not.
George is solid if he'll do it, yeah.
Can we vote for him since he's not here?
Yeah.
Teach him not to not show.
Nominate him and then vote him in.
No, I nominate George.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Yeah, sure.
George Prince,
George
co-chair?
Congratulations, George.
George.
Marry on that.
Ms. Timmy, who seconded that motion, please?
You did.
Yeah.
Stan, okay, good.
Yeah. And I congratulate you.
Yes, thank you.
Our next meeting, which is in October, is the second Monday. I will not be here that Monday.
Oh, George.
Well, you sure picked a good time to pick out a co-chair, didn't you?
If you want to,
Is
we
the,
can
is
move that.
I think we should. That's actually a holiday for some. Did you say October the 9th, right?
Whatever the date
Yeah,
is.
that's actually a holiday. I know.
Columbus?
Mm-hmm. And some
Indigenous
people are off
Peoples'
that
Day.
Is the city off that day?
I don't know. Columbus, I'm not sure.
I think the state's off that day.
Can we make it, if it's not the 9th, make it the 10th on a
That-
Tuesday?
That would be great for me if it's good for everybody else.
What date were you? Oh, gosh darn.
October the 10th then, on a Tuesday?
At 6 o'clock?
Does that work for you, Dale? Okay. Work for you, Tim?
Oh, yeah.
Does it work for you, Secretary?
Yep.
Secretary and Secretary? Okay, we got it covered then. Okay, let's do that. Let's move it to Tuesday, October the 10th, 6 o'clock here. Okay. And then the last thing I have, Green Ridge subdivision. It's not on our agenda, so we cannot discuss anything tonight. But Green Ridge has a possibility of some new owners, and they know that there's stormwater issues there that have to be done. So there's some questions from the possible owners as to what we might be able to do. Not, it has to pass the stormwater ordinance, and they know that, okay? There's no way of getting out of any of that, but there's some questions on building after that's all done. it's something that they want to move on fairly quickly. I was gonna ask if you all would be, because I can't discuss it tonight because it's not on the agenda. I did take it to staff today, Tim, I let Tim know, and Tim's been working with it too. We've been working with it, and this board has been asking the question for a long time, how can we make this happen? So we felt like that today, if planning and zoning actually looked at it, and looked at and answered the questions, and made a recommendation from the board, that if it went into minutes, that it should suffice their ability to go ahead and move on the project and close on the deal. Okay? It's in writing, and everybody's gonna be on the same page, you better know. So I would ask if it's a possibility that we could do a special meeting and accommodate it, like we have in the past with other developers and other individuals within our community, to try to move projects forward as quickly and as easily as possible.
Do you have a suggestion on date?
I don't, council meeting's next Monday night.
So you want it this week?
No, we could do it next week, or we could do it, I suppose we could probably do it even next Monday night at 5 o'clock, if that would work.
The 18th?
Yeah, would that work for you, Tim, if
What
we
day?
can get it formed at 5? And we can go downstairs
What day did you say?
the 18th, which would be next Monday night,
At 5 o'clock?
and you'll have time at 5. You'll have time to post that too, correct? You don't
Yeah.
have to do it 24 hours in advance. Would that work for you all?
Yep.
I don't think George will be here because he'll be back from vacation, I believe. I think they're going, like George
We
took.
won't have a congratulations cake then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
George like took a month, so he'll get over it. But, okay, next Monday night,
5 p.m. or
5
11.
o'clock,
18th, right?
18th, yeah. And we'll do it, is it okay, Tim, if we do it downstairs?
Yeah, we can do it.
Because council's here and we don't.
Yeah. There's no EDOT meeting or any,
Not the 18th.
okay.
Okay. And hopefully it won't take very long to do this, but I plan on it anyway. Okay.
Should we ask the potential purchaser to be there?
Yes.
Okay.
And that would, I think that would be good, because then they could ask the questions and the board knows exactly what they're talking about, not through me.
Okay.
Or you, or anybody else. It'll be directly from the owner. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else from the board? Tim?
We got our dangerous building hearing this Friday at 1 o'clock here in the council chambers for 112 East 3rd Street. So,
Is that the dean?
yes.
Can you repeat the next step, please?
This Friday, 112 East 3rd Street.
Okay. Hearing none, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Debbie?
Thank you.
I hope you like it.
Debbie?
Yes.